There is nothing more frustrating, challenging, and painful than feeling unwell for a long time and seeking out answers and just not getting them. I know firsthand what that's like. For many, many years, I struggled with my hormones. I struggled with my digestive system. I struggled with my immune system. I struggled with my health in general. And I went from doctor to doctor to doctor to specialist to naturopath. And while they all had some kind of solution for me, none of it actually worked. Maybe you're in the same situation. Maybe you've been struggling with your health. Maybe you've been seeking and looking all over the place for the answers, and you're also struggling. I just want to really validate how freaking hard that is. It also shows how we really need a better system when it comes to our healthcare. People need to get answers. And so in this video, I'm going to give you the top functional medicine tests that I use personally for myself in my health journey, and I use with my clients that can get you out of the guessing game, out of the seeking game, out of all of the lengthy pain, so that you can know exactly what's going on in your health and you can start to feel better ASAP, because that's what we want. I want you feeling healthy, happy, free, and fulfilled. My name is Samantha Lotus, and I am so excited to dive into this video. As you may have seen from my previous videos, specifically on my health journey and the Dutch test that I ran, if you haven't, you can see it in the link. I have been going through a health journey myself, and this is something that has been years and years in the making. And it actually was the journey that led me to becoming a functional medicine practitioner, a nutritionist, a holistic coach, a life coach, going into psychology, metaphysics, that whole long journey. And it led me to really recognizing the lack in the medical world, the lack in having proper assessments, proper tools to really help people, and proper support. So in that journey, I have done every single test possible on myself to really find out what is actually going on. What is my body actually expressing? So a little backstory for me, like I said, I was going through a lot of hormone imbalance. I had lost my menstrual cycle for many, many years. I was being passed around from doctor to doctor, being put on every kind of birth control and all sorts of other things. I was recommended to take Synthroid, which is an artificial synthetic thyroid hormone that I would have had to been on for the rest of my life. For digestive issues, I was prescribed proton pump inhibitors and all sorts of other pharmaceutical medicines that I did not want to take. For the immune system, my doctors just kept saying, well, there's nothing you could do. You know, there's some viruses, you have mono, there's Epstein-Barr, but there's nothing you can do. You just have to drink water and sleep. And that was the answer that I had for many, many years, and it did not help me. So in my own health journey, what I looked at was really the root cause of what is actually happening. And there's only very few root causes to all and any dis-ease or illness. So we want to look at what your body is sensitive to. We want to look at the histamine, the fight or flight response that's happening. So for that, we dive into the sensitivity panel, which you're going to see in this video. So stay tight. We're going to get to go through all of the testing. The next thing you want to know is what your hormones are looking like, what your stress levels are, and that's where we go into the Dutch test. You can see my previous video if you want to see my personal Dutch test. The third thing, especially if you have digestive issues, okay, if you have indigestion, gas, bloating, upset stomach, nausea, if you have blood in your stools, if there's something going on where you know that your digestive system just does not feel right, this is where we want to go into the GI map, the comprehensive gut analysis. From there, depending on your specific case, we can do a SIBO test, which is a breath test to identify if there's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. From there, and again, you don't have to do all of these tests, but these are the tests that I recommend, the tests that I've done, the tests that maybe if money isn't an option or you're just so sick and tired of guessing and feeling ill, these are the top tests that I recommend. The next one is the Mycotoxin test. Now, this is going to test to see which toxins are present in your body and if there is mold present, because mold wreaks absolute havoc on your body and your mind and your whole energy system. And that, again, is one of the root causes. Finally, and lastly, is where we do a blood test. Now, most of you might be thinking, what, don't you do a blood test first? And no, a blood test really doesn't show you pretty much anything that you really need to know, especially if you want to get on the detailed level. But a blood test does have its merit, especially if you're testing for your minerals and if you're testing a comprehensive panel for your thyroid, as well as to see markers of infection or other things like that. So without further ado, let's dive into the tests. The first one is the food sensitivity analysis. Now, this is a hair mineral analysis test where you pluck out a few hairs, you send it in, and they test the food sensitivities as well as many more sensitivities. And this one is so potent and powerful because if you are consuming things or being introduced to things regularly that you are sensitive to, it is going to create that histamine response in the body, which is your body's fight or flight signal, which wreaks havoc on the body if you're continuously being introduced to things that you're sensitive to. So an example of my food sensitivity analysis, you'll see here, and there's a lot. This test is so great because it goes into so many details. It really is very explanatory. So interpreting the results, there's high reactivity, which is where it's red, moderate, orange, and green, no reactivity. So when you see red, you really want to avoid them completely. When you see orange, these are things that you can still have once in a while in moderation. And it's probably good to take something for histamines while you're doing that. And that's not an antihistamine, but that's more of a organ blend. And I'll link that in the comments. And then no reactivity means you're good. So when we go into mine, it gives an overview at the top, and then it shows you like this. So when I look at the gluten containing cereals and grains, it's pretty much all orange. There's some red and a few greens. The cheeses and the dairies, I know I'm sensitive to, and they're all in the orange. Okay, there's red. Then when we look at the gluten-free grains, there's quite a few that are great. Okay, perfect. So you can look through and you can see, okay, what is not great. And then I see things like, oh, coconut milk and coconut water. Well, that's something that I had been having very regularly. So I know by seeing that that's something I want to take out, not forever, but just while my body's histamine allergic response tones down. So continued, it goes into all of the fruits, the veggies, the herbs, the legumes, the nuts and the seeds. Miscellaneous like Marmite, sorry, Aussies, almond oil, coconut oil, all the different things. Seafood, vegetables. For me, the mushrooms always come up as red, and that's something that I know that my body is just sensitive to. And it's also something that I don't like. I don't like the taste of mushrooms, and they're not good for me. Then we go into some more of the vegan sensitivities. Mine are quite high in the vegan, like the falafel, natto, tempeh, vegan cheese, all of that. Then it goes into the non-food sensitivity analysis. This is where it gets really interesting as well, because you can see that some of the things, Aspergillus niger, that's black mold, and all of citric acid is made from black mold. So I really avoid citric acid, mulberry. I'm pretty good for the grasses, the insects, materials, whatnot. Millet, no. Pine, I don't like the smell of pine either, and that's something I'm quite sensitive to. Then we go into metals, and this one we really want to look out for. Okay, good to know. And then other mineral and other nutrient analysis, you'll see what's outside of the range. So when it's outside of the range for your minerals, it actually means that you are deficient in. So allium, need more garlic and onion, carotenoids and copper. And then it will show you the things that are within range, which is great. So you'll see that. Vitamin analysis, outside of range. Okay, so it's showing me that I'm outside of range in some of the B vitamins, the C and the vitamin E, and then I'm within range in the other ones. Great. It's just, again, more information. It will also show which additives, and this one is a big one because the additives, specifically the sweeteners, the colorings, the antioxidants that are actually not good antioxidants, the preservatives, I'm sensitive, and most people are sensitive to all of these. So you can see, you can look at which E numbers that are hidden in all of the foods, and you can actually look it up at the end, which ones you're very sensitive to. And this is really good information because we actually don't want to be consuming any of these E numbers, but especially not the ones that you're really sensitive to. And when you look at the sweeteners, the thickeners, you get all of that information. And it also goes into gut health analysis. It goes into what the strains of probiotics that we may be low or normal in. And so, keep working on the gut bacterium and the flora. And then it goes further into digestive analysis. low in some of the enzymes and high or regular in some of the other ones. And then it goes into next steps. So again, we just blew through it, but this is such a great test. It is so affordable, often less than $50 or 50 euros. And I'm going to link the link where you can get this test in the notes. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, the GI map test, I decided to take this test because I have had insane digestive issues for a very, very long time. And even though I eat really well, I live well, I did a lot of parasite cleansing, it still was not better. And this is a huge thing that we need to talk about because in the functional medicine world, we talk a lot about parasites, but it's not just parasites, okay? There can be so many other things that are living and feeding off of you in your body. And these are the harmful pathogens. So the GI map is one of the most comprehensive tests that you can do for gut health. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a place that you have to start, especially because these tests can be on the more expensive side, especially if you're doing multiple of them. But if you have the funds and you want to know, you don't want to guess, I highly recommend doing this test. So it goes through the bacterial pathogens, right? All these gnarly E. coli's and Shiga-like toxins and salmonella. Luckily, we're good here. Goes into parasitic pathogens. I didn't come up with any or viral because I've been doing so much work on pathogens and virus. Where it does come up here for myself is the H. pylori, and that makes a lot of sense from where I was feeling it right in my solar plexus. H. pylori is a gnarly little pathogen that it's hard to get rid of. And it wreaks havoc in the body. It's very connected with ulcers, with stomach cancer, and we definitely want to get rid of this. So luckily it's not too high, but it is still higher than I want it to be. So I am on a H. pylori protocol. The next thing you can see is the other bacterias where you might be a little high or a little low. So it gives you the nice range there. Obviously, the green is where you want to be. The yellow is a little bit danger, and the red is this needs to be taken care of. Also goes into dysbiotic and overgrowth bacteria. So the opportunistic microbes, these are no bueno. You do not want them. So you can see exactly which one you have and which one you don't have. And then by knowing what exactly you have, you can target them. You want to use the right herbs, the right supplements, the right lifestyle things, okay? We're not just blasting with antibiotics. That is not the way to go, or antivirals. You want to make sure that you are pulling out the weeds in the garden, specifically with herbal medicines. So for me, what came up high, it shows here, some of this Staphylococcus, Streptococcus. I mean, I travel a lot, a lot of stuff going on, so it kind of makes sense. You can see the ones that are kind of in the mid-range. No fungi, no viruses. This is a really cool thing because most people think that they have some kind of gut thing. I have candida. No, you might not. You might actually have a bacterial overgrowth, or you might have a yeast, a different kind of fungus, but not the candida one, or you think you might have Epstein-Barr, but you don't. The medical medium talks about everyone has Epstein-Barr. No, they don't. Okay. So we have to really know exactly what we have and what is going on. Furthermore, parasites, no parasites. Yay. Did a lot of great parasite work. Wonderful. Then we want to look at the intestinal health markers. Now, elastase, that shows that my pancreatic enzymes are not functioning in the optimal path. So we want to do some work there. We also look at secretory IgA. There's too much of that immune response, that histamine reaction. So that's why we did the food sensitivity test to know exactly what is triggering it. You could use a food journal and you can guess and you can play that game, but that takes a lot. It's very annoying, and I like to just get to the source. Okay, so then it gives you a little overview of what antibiotic resistant genes you might have. Again, I don't recommend using any of these almost ever. I'm not going to go too deep into that. Okay, so that's the GI map test. Okay, now we're going to go into the SIBO test. As I mentioned, I had a lot of digestive issues. There was bloating, I was feeling windy, I was feeling just not right. A lot of not fun symptoms there. And so I knew that I needed to do a SIBO test. I needed to know if there was a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that I had to take care of. And this is my original test from 2020. And as you can see here, the hydrogen was too high and the methane was too high, and the combined hydrogen and methane, being the markers of SIBO, were both high. So this is very conclusive that I had a SIBO infection. Okay, so you take the test 9 times over a certain amount of hours, and it shows you, it's a breath test, and it shows you what is happening. And I did this from SIBO Canada. There are great places all over the world that you can do your SIBO testing. So this was not optimal. So I had to do another protocol for SIBO and get rid of the infection. Okay, what's really awesome is that I just retested my SIBO in 2023, and it showed no methane, no hydrogen. So that is wonderful. Cleared the SIBO. Perfect. Okay. Highly recommend a SIBO test, specifically if there is a lot of pressure in the stomach, a lot of gas. Now, sometimes the gas could be smelling, and that would be more of the methane. Say it's like more of like an egg or a sulfur. That's more methane. But you can have SIBO with hydrogen gas where it won't have that methane smell, but you might still have SIBO. So it's important to know which kind of SIBO, because again, the treatment is different. Okay, next up, we are going into the mycotoxin, and you might be thinking, holy, there are a lot of tests. Like I said, you don't need to go through all of the tests, but if you are going through chronic illness and you want to know exactly what is going on, these are the tests that I recommend. So the mycotoxin test tests for which toxins are present. The main things that I want to show in the mycotoxin profile is that the aspergillus was very, very high, the gliotoxin, and the penicillium, the mycophenolic acid, was extremely high. And you want to know what toxins are very high present in the body so that you can work on cleansing them. This is also really good if you suspect that there might be mold toxicity. I was in the mid-range in the mold, because mold wreaks absolute havoc on the body. Last and certainly least is doing a blood test. Now, this is a very old blood test. I did this in 2018, but this was a really great blood test to do because it was a specialized blood panel that has the right markers. So most blood tests, you're not getting enough information, especially if you're doing it at a regular clinic, especially in Canada. You're just not getting the right markers. They're not looking for everything they want to be looking for. What you want to look for is you want to see the uric acid. You want to look at your minerals, specifically magnesium, see how low that is. Every single person's low in magnesium. You want to look at your liver enzymes. You want to make sure that you are looking at your iron binding. You want to see how your liver is doing with your cholesterol. And then specifically, you want to look in the thyroid panel. You need to have not just TSH, not just T3, but your T4, your T3 uptake, your free T3. You need to be looking at the serum. You need to look at all of these markers because there's so much more that's indicated with the thyroid. And so for me, I could see that there's low thyroid activity, or on the lower side of the thyroid activity, which is also connected to the stress, connected to the Dutch test, connected to all of that. So you want to have a blood test that's actually giving you the right markers. You want to see your vitamin D because most people are very deficient. Okay, so having a comprehensive blood test where you're looking at your platelets and the markers of infection, right? Looking at the white blood cells, that's going to give you much more information. And again, as a reminder, the final test, and this one I'm not going to go into too detail because I have a whole video on the Dutch test. The final test is actually probably the first test that I would do, is the Dutch test. And this is mine from 2018. It's a little different than mine from 2023. And essentially, it just gives you your markers of all your sex hormones, all of your hormones, your neurochemicals, gives you your inflammatory pathways. It just shows so much detail, you know, your free and daily cortisol and cortisone, how your hypothalamus, your pituitary, your adrenal glands are working, your DHEA, your progesterone. Like, this one is just such an amazing test to take, your glutathione, your dopamine, right? Just so much information here. So as you can see, there are amazing tests that you can really dive deep into what is happening and get a very clear, no guessing picture at what your body is currently expressing. There we have it. Those are the top functional medicine tests that, as a human optimization specialist specializing in the mind, body, spirit connection, in you being healthy, happy, free, and fulfilled, those are the tests that I recommend. Let me know in the comments if one of those tests or all of those tests look exciting to you, if that's something that you would want to try, maybe if you even need more support. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I definitely get back to as many of the comments as possible. Now, there may be some of you that are saying, okay, that's a lot. Those are a lot of tests. And yes, they do come with a price tag. Some of them are very inexpensive, like the food sensitivity test. And then some of them do get to be a little pricier, like the GI map test. And it's not a place that you have to start. There are great assessments that you can do that ask you questions about your symptom and your health history and what's going on in your physical body. And those can be really, really great. So do not worry if money is a factor for you. You can still figure out what's happening. And if you want to get to the nitty gritty and see exactly what kind of yeast or what kind of parasite or what kind of hormone imbalance is going on, then I highly recommend that you do consider some of these tests. And if you're looking for deeper support and you're ready to invest in yourself in a big way and go all in on yourself, then I recommend that you reach out to me and I would be happy to run those tests. Further, let me know if there's anything I missed, if there's anything you want me to go deeper into, and hold tight, make sure you subscribe to this because the coming videos are going to go into the protocol, because now you're thinking, okay, great, a lot of issues going on, but what do I actually do? So the coming videos, we're going to go into the multi-phase protocol that I have put myself on and that I work with my clients. I hope this was enlightening. I hope this was inspiring. I hope it stimulated you in some kind of way. And I am super grateful that you are here sharing this journey with me. Mwah. Until next time.